Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video, I'd like to discuss some Ipsos polling, which shows that not only do voters not think that Sunak is delivering on his pledges, they think Labour would actually do way better. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel. So, being clear, the 5 pledges from Rishi Sunak at the beginning of the year weren't the public's priorities. Like, you could look at it and go, okay, you're hearing that some polling thinks that the public think Labour would do better on these things than the Conservatives, and think, well, that's normal. The Conservatives have made a mess of things. They've been in power for 13 years. People are ready for a new government. But no, it's much worse than that for the Tories, because, as I'm going to explain in a bit, these pledges were a PR stunt. They were designed to sound like they were important issues to the public, but also be ones that Sunak could easily deliver on and thus show he was capable of achieving. Now, this is important because after 13 years of a Tory government, the country is broken, nothing is working, the economy is flat. Even when it grows by, like, if you round it off, 0%. Public services are all failing, every single one. We are a joke on the international stage, and we are now in the middle of a severe cost of living crisis, which the government have absolutely no policies to deal with. Sunak needs to do what Boris Johnson did in 2019. Say that, yes, we accept that previous leaderships have failed because that was evident, but I am different. I will achieve where the others failed. But promises are not going to cut it next time, because people aren't afraid of the Labour government, and also far too much damage has since been done. Sunak needs some results now, or at least the perception of results. So his 5 pledges were made as a way to hoodwink voters, but they don't actually help the public. So let's look at the example of someone. Let's imagine someone, maybe you, working in a low to medium paying job, struggling with the cost of living. First pledge, halving inflation. Does this solve their problems? No, because even half the inflation would still mean things having to cut back, things going up more than your rate of pay. The public's actual priority is an increase in their standard of living. You only get that when your pay increases above the level of inflation. So if you get a 3% pay rise, you need inflation to be less than 3%. But halving inflation will put it on about 5 and a bit percent. So it still means inflation is above, your, depending on what job you're in, your pay increase. Second pledge, grow the economy. Again, sounds nice, but it only matters to the public if it means better quality jobs being created, leading to their pay increasing above the level of inflation. The first 2 pledges are really, from the point of view of the public, the same thing. It's standard of living going up. That's what it comes down to. You use your rate of pay, and there's the inflation. The rate of pay needs to be above the level of inflation. Is it? Yes, great. If not, not great. If Sunak's just growing the economy by like 0%, technical growth, it's 0.1%, 0.2%, 0.3%, technical growth, but nothing that a member of the public will notice in terms of benefits to them. The third pledge is reducing national debt. Now, this is one that people think they care about, but will never notice. But it's also one that Sunak isn't reducing anyway, but increasing. Fourth is cutting NHS waiting lists. This sounds like a public priority, but it's not. The public don't care about waiting lists. Tell the public the waiting lists. And it's like, okay, is that good or bad? Well, it's actually quite bad, but you don't know, do you? You can't tell. 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 6 million, 7 million. What's good? What's bad? But tell someone that the waiting lists, that the waiting time, like 2 years. Some people are waiting 2 years for hospital treatment. Well, they know that's bad. They can tell that's bad. They understand that's bad. If Sunak is able to boast a small reduction in waiting lists, but people are still waiting years for treatment, he's not going to win over the public, because it's not the public's priority to have shorter waiting lists, but shorter waiting times. Fifth is stopping the boats, more specifically passing legislation which will stop the boats. Again, sounds like a good thing to do. Oh yes, we need to stop the boats. Oh, legislation, that sounds the right way to do it, but nobody will notice. Let's say his legislation works, which it won't. Let's say it works and he stops all the boats, which he won't. But let's say he does. Ask that struggling worker how it's helped their life. Personally, say, what benefit have you noticed in your life? Oh, well, the Daily Express say it's terribly good. Yes, but what difference have you seen in your life? Oh, nothing really. No. None of these pledges were the public's priorities. It's all a con. But given that it's a con, shouldn't the Tories look like they're doing well on them? After all, they engineered the con. How can they not look like they're doing well on their own engineered con? But this latest poll from Ipsos paints a pretty grim picture for the Tories. In each case, they asked respondents to rate if a Sunak-led Tory government or a Starmer-led Labour government are or would, depending on which one, do a good or bad job on the specific pledge. But they also asked about the general appeal of the pledge to the public. For example, the first pledge, they asked about halving inflation, but they also asked about easing the cost of living, which is what people really care about. On every single count, Labour outperformed the Tories, every single one. And you can see that the score is a net negative for Labour on most counts, just like the Tories. But that doesn't matter, although there were two where Labour were either zero or positive. But that doesn't matter. Both Labour and the Tories are targeting voters who are choosing between the two of them because they use their general election vote to choose the government. So the specific score doesn't matter. What matters is what is the score compared to the other party. You know, these are the policies which Sunak personally chose. They weren't chosen for him by voters. They were chosen by him under the dubious claim that they were the people's priorities, as if he's asked the people. But there was no public consultation exercise. They were all cooked up by Sunak and his moronic advisors. The same advisors who told him to film himself in a moving car without a seatbelt and to wear old work boots with half a smart suit at the press conference yesterday. If I was Sunak, I'd be sacking those advisors now. I would look at those polls and go, you're gone. Go away. I'm going to get some proper advisors. Seriously. He has committed himself to these 5 pledges. He can't change them now. The only way he can change to different ones is if he can show he's achieved these ones. He's committed. He's nailed his colours to the mast because they were designed to show him as an achiever. These scores are absolutely dreadful for Sunak. And look at where the scores are worst. On the ones which should have been easiest for Sunak to deal with. Sunak has the power to bring inflation much lower down if he chooses to. Price controls on energy already exist, technically they're supposed to be applied by Ofgem. He just needs to make sure they apply them properly. He could reduce waiting lists by paying NHS staff properly, recruiting more staff on the better pay and get treatments going again. He could do that, choosing not to. He could sack the mad bat of a Home Secretary and get someone who will just process the claims and deal with refugees properly. He can claim that the results are down to his legislation if he wants. Growing the economy and reducing debt are what are genuinely tricky pledges. You know, it's like, even if he started making the right moves now, it would take time to see the results. We may not, well, we probably wouldn't see them by the election. So those are actually the trickiest. And it's interesting that the ones which the public think the government are doing the worst job on, the ones that are most negative, are the ones where the government could actually get quick positive results if they could be asked to govern. And in the case of the inflation and NHS waiting list, this is what will be most noticeable to the public. So it should actually come as no surprise that these are the lowest scores for Sunak's government. They're the ones the public notice. But all in all, unless the Prime Minister thinks it will somehow all come good next year, this poll is an absolute nightmare for him. And he knows that his opponents, both within and without, are going to use it to beat him over the head with. And remember, these are not the policy areas which the public will judge the government on. They're the ones Sunak wants the public to judge him on. He's chosen these and he's doing really badly on them. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, please click the like button if you'd like to support the channel further, the join buttons for memberships, and until next time, I'll see you later.